Welcome to Call Center Agent Training. In this training session, we will cover both logging in and out using the telephone, as well as answering calls from the telephone, placing calls on hold, resuming those calls, and transferring calls, both blind transfer and supervised transfer. We'll also cover using our Softclient as an agent, showing you how to log in, overview of the navigation, various settings that you can control, logging into one or multiple queues, as well as logging out of one or multiple queues. We'll talk about changing your status. We'll show you incoming call indications, show you how to answer calls, put calls on hold, resume those calls, how to mute and unmute calls, and we'll talk about transferring, both blind and consultative. We'll also talk about Park, Camp On, Conference, show you call logs, show you reminders, favorites, and speed dials. So let's get started with agent training using SIP phones. Depending upon the administrator that provisioned your setup, you may have a button that shows queue, log in, log out. It may be called something different. When you press that button the very first time, it will prompt you and tell you that you are logged in on all queues. The very same thing, if you press it again, it will show that you are logged out, or it will announce that you are logged out from all queues. It's very important to log out whenever you're going on break, lunch, or the end of a shift, so you will not be receiving calls from this telephone when you are away. Also, you do not have an indication that you're logged out or that you're logged in. You can simply push the button again and you can hear that you are logged out or that you are logged in, and that is the indication. If you also need to see if you're logged in visually or if you need to see how many calls are waiting, those are things that are done through the Softclient or a wallboard that could be put somewhere in the vicinity of your work area for you to be able to see. Let's talk about answering a queue call. It's very important to know that queue calls will ring on your primary line of your phone. And in this example, I'm using a Polycom phone. When the call comes in, it will show the incoming caller ID of the person that is calling into the queue. It will also show you the from being the name of the queue that this call is being routed to. And for you to answer it, thank you for calling sales or whatever that is. So you will know. So every call you should definitely look at your display on your telephone and you will know, especially if you're in more than one queue, which queue this call is for and how you should answer that call. You can pick up the handset or you can press the answer soft key. And you can also utilize a headset if your telephone supports that to answer the call. When you're done with the call, you can use the soft key to end call, or you can place the handset back into the cradle of the phone, or again, using a headset, you can end the call from your headset. You can place a call on hold. Your telephone may have a dedicated hold button. If not, the active call across your soft keys are across the bottom of the display. You may see a hold button there. If you press that, the active call before you press it shows green on the LED, and you can see that in the left example on my screen. You can also see in the middle of my screen that when you press the hold button, that same button becomes a resume. When you have a call on hold, you'll see that that green LED has now become red, denoting that that particular line has a call on hold. You can press the resume soft key or the dedicated hold button on your phone and pick back up that call. And this is a private hold only on your telephone. That customer is hearing music on hold defined by your administrator. If you have a call that needs to be transferred to someone else within your company or possibly transferred outside of the company, there are two types of transfer. One is blind, where you transfer, you dial the number, and the call is routed immediately to the destination that you dialed. The supervised transfer, also known as announced or consultative transfer, allows you to talk to the person that you're transferring the call to, and then you can announce that you have a call for them and any background that you may need to provide. Your supervisor or your manager may want you to only do supervised transfers or may allow you to do blind transfers. Either one of them, you should consult with your management and understand what they want you to do. In this case, if you press the transfer key on my left screen here for just a couple of seconds, depending upon whether your default transfer type is blind or supervised, it will do the other type of transfer. If I have transferred by default blind transfer, when I press transfer, I dial the number. When I connect that number, the call is immediately gone, and I don't have to hit transfer again at the end to complete the transfer. If supervised transfer, again also called announced or consultative transfer, if that is the default, then you will press transfer, dial the number, and then once it connects, you can talk to them and you will need to hit transfer again. But if you want to toggle it to be the other type, if you press transfer just a couple of seconds here, it will change it from either blind or supervised to the other type. So again, that holding this button just a couple of seconds will allow you to change that to the different type of transfer. Let's now talk about agent training using the Softclient. When you log in, first of all, you must download and use the Chrome browser from Google. Every time you utilize the Softclient, you must use this browser because this browser type supports WebRTC, which is Web Real-Time Communications. It's the highest compliance rating browser out in the market today that supports all the WebRTC capabilities. And this application uses the browser and WebRTC. You will be provided with an address, a URL that you would paste into the address window, and you would want to bookmark that as well. When you do, then you will take, you may have a number or you may have an agent ID or a user ID that is alphanumeric, as you see here. And then you will also be provided with a password. If you are using both the phone and the Softclient, your user ID more than likely will be numbers. If you're only using the Softclient, you may have alphabet login. You will not use the @domain.com or .net part of your user ID. You'll only use what comes before the @ You do need to enter a password, and you can click the button to remember me. If you're using your own computer or your work computer, that is advisable and recommended. However, if you're using a different computer or you're using a public computer, it's highly recommended that you do not select Remember Me. You'll click the Login button, and now you should see your agent console screen. This screen allows you to manage your incoming calls as well as outbound calls. It also allows you to log in and out of specific queues and see how many calls are waiting in queue. On the left quadrant here, up at the top, you can see that I am logged into the client. However, I am sitting in the ready state. You may be configured with some timers at the top and some other settings here. So the very beginning, to log in or log out, you may have a button that says Log In on All Queues. These are settings and log in, log out options for you. Log out would log you out of the application, not out of the queues. The settings button is also there for you to make display settings and some other information that we will cover in just a moment. Along the right-hand side, you can log in and out of specific queues. Anything that is gray, when you click on it, will turn green. Anything green will turn gray. If it is green, you are logged in. You're also able to see how many calls are waiting and how many agents are also logged into the queue. This is a great way to monitor and log in if you see that there are no agents and there are waiting calls. Again, across the top is your agent status, and you can pull this and click on this and change your status. Your active call window appears in the middle of the screen, and if it is blue, depending upon how your administrator has set this up, then incoming calls may appear one color. In my example, it is blue. You'll see that this is also a call that is on hold, the status. You can see the queue as well as the telephone number that is calling from. It could also be a user ID of somebody in your business. And across the top, you can see the name. Conversation time is the talk time, and it's an incoming call. You can also see green calls here being a call that is active. And then you can also see any yellow might be a call that could be one that is active as well, but is an incoming or an outgoing call. All of these can be set with different colors. Then, if you want to make an outbound call, there is a dialog box here that you can enter. You can type it in, and you can make outbound calls. The actions will change based upon what types of calls that you have active or selected. And we'll go through each one of these. You also have the ability to enter speed dials. Quite possibly could be your supervisor, could be voicemail, could be other numbers that you dial frequently. Your call logs are under the history, and you can set reminders to call back customers or to do different tasks in the office. You do have the ability to search your contact list and even add contacts and do advanced searching. Your contacts will appear down here in this bottom quadrant, and you are able to see their presence. You also have pagination, where you can go to different pages by clicking the left or right arrows. So let's now go into the settings up at the top right. When you click settings, there are 4 choices across the top: the options, shortcuts, directory, and appearance. And to begin with, under the options, there's one that you may want to select. And all of these allow you to customize the Softclient to your individual needs, but you may want to check the login on all queues when you enter, or log out on all queues when you exit, making it much easier for you to remember to log in and log out. You can also, under the Directory tab, you can choose 3 options for that directory listing. It's highly recommended to choose their VoIP telephone number, which is their business number, as well as their mobile and email. Those may be things that you want to see, but there can be the department and other things, but you're limited to 3. The Shortcuts tab allows you to change the default shortcuts for answering calls, transferring calls, and so on. And there are many, many, many for you to choose from. The Appearance tab lets you set fonts and colors away from the default. So if you need it to appear darker or the fonts to be different. You can log in to 1 or more queues. Across the top, there'll be a button, Log In on All Queues. You could have also set the option, as we just covered, that when you press this Log Out button, it will log you out of all queues automatically. You may only be assigned 1 queue. If you are, then that will appear under the Queues tab and will show initially green or gray. Gray meaning you are logged out. It does show how many calls are waiting in queue and how many agents are logged in real time. And again, the green or the lime-colored box color means that you are logged in. Gray means you are logged out. All you have to do is click on the box and it will log you in or log you out. You may, once you're logged in on all your queues, you may also see a button at the top, Log Out from All Queues. And again, only if you are assigned those queues will you see them. And again, you can toggle by clicking a green will turn gray to log you out. By clicking a gray, it will turn green to log you in. There are 2 statuses to begin with, and there may be additional ones over time. But to start with, you have a checkbox, meaning that you are available. If you were to click this circle at the top left, you can make yourself not available. That means that you are going to finish some paperwork, maybe you're going on break or lunch or training, depending upon what your manager and your supervisor recommends that you do for those situations. When you come back, you can click this button again and make yourself available by selecting the Available button. And now you will see a checkbox that you are available. Available means you will answer any calls that come in and they will route calls to you. If you are in not available, then you will not be provided any calls. Your supervisors do see when you are in not available. That's also considered not ready, and available means ready to take calls. Incoming call indications, you do see the incoming queue that you're going to answer the call for. You can also see that it is an incoming call, and you can see that possibly who it is called from. For this particular call, it was calling from this particular telephone number, and it was another agent in my call center. And so it was being made from that telephone number and that extension. Alias is known as extension. And then I've also provisioned, or this user also in our contacts has a business mobile. And it can be pretty detailed if it is additional information is provided for that call. When you want to answer a call, there are many ways to do that. You may be someone who wants to point and click. You may be someone who would prefer to do a shortcut key, for instance, F7 to answer an incoming call. You may also want to click one of these action buttons at the top of the screen. It is your choice, and you can do either one of those. Here I see an incoming call that is waiting, and it will appear that way until I click to answer it. If I were to right-click on this yellow line here for the incoming call, then I could choose the answer in that. I could also hit F7 on my computer keyboard, and it will answer the call for me. I can select this, and I can click the answer icon under the action menu. Any of those will allow me to answer an incoming call. If I want to put a call on hold, very similar, I have 3 choices. One, I can right-click on that active call, and so that active call was yellow as incoming, and now it's green as an active call. You'll also notice that the status here was the arrow turned that way, and the status on the right, the arrow turned right, is an active call. So when I right-click, I have the choice, several different things I can choose, and if I choose the hold, then the call will look this way. It will have the hold sign in the status, and I could also have pressed F8. And these, again, are configurable in the Settings button at the top right. You can also press the double line here, which means hold, and that will then convert to a green with a yellow telephone, or sorry, green with a red telephone in the middle of it to resume that call. Once you have a call on hold, then the status turns of the double bar here, you can right-click and choose Resume, as well as the F8, or you can press the button up at the top that changes, either one of those. You can also mute and unmute a call, where this may be on your headset as well if you're using a headset. But on the screen, you can take an active call and press this microphone button at the top of your screen. That will then turn red if you are then muted. And you can hit it again and it will unmute you, so that if you need to, let's say, cough, or you need to get information or anything like that, you can mute your side of the call, but you would still be able to hear them. Let's talk about blind transfer. So to an active call, you can right-click and you can hit the transfer button. You can also hit F11, or there is an icon up at the top in the action menu with a telephone with some tape coming out of that, and that is the blind transfer. You can also, when you do that, you would need to enter in the middle of the screen. It would show you an attention button, and you could type it in, or you can right-click on any contact here below, and then you would have the transfer to, and you could choose any of their numbers here, again, based upon what you selected from your settings that you want to show. And it will then blind transfer that call to them. Blind transfer, again, meaning you do not get the opportunity to tell the other party that you have a call, incoming call for them. A supervised transfer, you would take the original call, right-click on it, and choose Consult, or press F10, and then you would you could also hit the Consult button here on the top right when you have an active call. Right now in this it shows gray, but when it is lit up you're able to do that. You would enter the telephone number or right-click down here to transfer to that. And then once you're done with the other party, you would need to hit the blind transfer button or F11 to complete that transfer. You can park calls and retrieve these calls. Park calls allow you to possibly announce that you have a call parked on whatever, or let someone else know in your group that a call is parked, or allows you to pick that call up from another console operator. You would not be able to pick it up through the telephone. It's only available through this console, someone using this console. So you would right-click and you can choose Park. You can also, the default function key is F12, or you can hit the P button with a phone, which is the Park button. Once you do that, then the tab called Park will have the parked call showing here, and if you need to pick it back up earlier, then the default is it will ring back to the agent that parked it. But you can right-click and get that call back from Park, and it will come back in as an incoming call, and you can select and answer it. But again, the default is after a certain amount of seconds waiting up in Park, that and they do hear the defined music on hold source, that you can that call will come back to the agent that parked it. So there's no calls that are stuck or lost. Camp on. Camp on allows you to transfer a call to someone who has a busy line. And a busy line would be shown as a red icon that they are on the phone. And Camp on will basically park that against their line, so that as soon as they're off that telephone call that they're on, this call will ring in. So it will not transfer to their voicemail. It will be on their line, and when they are off of the telephone call that they're on, this call will ring into that person. So you can choose, right-click and choose Camp On, and choose the VoIP number that which one to camp on to, or you can hit F9 or you can hit the camp on icon, which is the person with a park button here. Again, it's like parking it onto a person's line. And when you're done with this, once you hit that, then it will park it on there. Again, once they're off their line, it will ring in and they can answer it. But if it's not parked onto one of these, you can type in the number here if you haven't selected one of these. But you can, let's say you hit F9, then it would pop this up. You would put in the number that you want to park the call to. If it's someone down here below, it's easiest to right-click and choose Camp On and what number. Let's talk about conference. Sometimes people use conference for the supervised or consultative call. It's another way to do that. You will take an active call, put them on hold, and make another call. Once you do that, you go back to the original call that is on hold, and your conference button will now light up with the 3 people up at the top, or the Control C is also a shortcut, and it will bridge all 3 of the parties, including yourself, together. And when you're done, you could bow out of it and release yourself from that conference. But that's how you do a conference call. You can click the button in the middle of your page that says History, and it will show you all placed, received, and missed calls. You can consider this incoming, outgoing, and missed calls. To call a person back from on that number, you simply click the entry and it will make the call to them. You can also set up reminders for yourself. If you click the memo button on your screen, you can click Add a new memo, and you get the opportunity to put a telephone number, a contact name, and some notes. If you want it to pop up in your tool tray and remind you, you can click this button and put the date and the time that you want to be reminded. You may have to call a client back regarding test results, shipping information, or it may be just to pick up lunch or to call in a lunch order, whatever it is for you. Then it will pop up in your tool tray. Incoming calls will also pop up in your tool tray, and you're able to click, in this case, and call them back. One other thing about those, you can also click a memo and edit a memo, and it will appear in that as well. Favorites. Favorites will appear under the Presence tab on the right based upon people that are in your address book. You can right-click on any user or any entry, and you can click Add Contact to Favorites. When you do, they'll appear over here, and you're able to see, to transfer to them, for instance, a supervisor or other agents in your team. You just right-click just like you would down here in the bottom, and you can transfer to them, camp on. If you hit delete, it will delete them from your favorites list. Speed dials. These appear in the middle of your screen. You can add a new speed dial. You can enter a label, and you can also enter the number that will be dialed. The label in this case is Supervisor 1 or Supervisor 2. You can also set a shortcut and hit Save. To call that speed dial, simply click the button and it will automatically make an outbound call. That may be voicemail, it could be to an internal or an external number, it doesn't matter. This concludes agent training for the telephone and for the Softclient.